Well, hello all. Thank you so much for watching the Icarus launch. Thank you so much for coming. This is our first issue of Icarus, and we're going to have some of the really lovely contributors read their work today. And yeah, I guess we will shoot right ahead, starting with Meg Elizabeth Lynch reading one of her poems.
Hello, thank you, Sophie.
I guess we will shoot right ahead, starting with. We will shoot right ahead, starting with. We will shoot right.
To the bouncing bright tightrope of my pinprick desires. Yeah, so thank you, and it's a joy. It's a joy to start us off. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else. Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Meg, for that. And it was so lovely. The Icarus launch. Thank you so much for coming. This is our first issue of Icarus, and we're going to have some of the really lovely contributors read their work today. And yeah, I guess we will shoot right ahead, starting with Meg Elizabeth Lynch reading one of her poems from the issue.
Hello, thank you, Sophie, and congratulations again. It's such a beautiful issue. I'm lucky enough to have a copy because I live on campus and I'm the chair, so I get special privileges when things get delivered. It's superb. It's an honor to be among you. So the poem I'm reading is called Sky Spires, and it's written in rhyme because I was a little bit tipsy when I wrote it, which is noted at the end of the poem. And I would like to dedicate this to Maria, who is here with me actually. Maria is one of those soulmate friends that change your life when you meet them and you don't know how you did with it. So this is Sky Spires. There is a vocabulary of magnets here on the door. Right now, I am topless, heating water to pour. I am after a bath and a gently stemmed glass. Chopin is playing, too slow and too fast. Smacked pink, and by wow, the here-ness of now. This age to be young yet, so ostentatious and loud. Kettles and music and the quick minds of others. These are the causes. My words are latecomers to the bouncing bright tightrope of my pinprick desires. But it's true that I love you. 1,000 sky spires. Yeah, so thank you, and it's a joy. It's a joy to start us off, and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Meg, for that. It was so lovely, such a lovely poem and such a lovely reading. Thank you very much. So moving on to Holly Loveday, who will also be reading a poem from the issue.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm going to be reading my poem, Those Big Platform Shoes. Those big platform shoes. For sure, there was a time when a banana split was the height of decadence, or when wrapping my wet hair up in a towel tapped into a woman's dated bathroom. The ground isn't stable, like after so much caffeine in a stuffy room, it's like walking on great platforms that cushion the feet to mute the pavement. So I feel like tripping over. Can everything be cream, grey, or off-white from now on, please? Loud colours incite my migraines, my anxiety, my sense of future, my sense of interior design. Cream, grey, or off-white from now on, please. Loud colours. She mentioned that the ground isn't stable. I get up every morning early when it's still cold out before I leave for breakfast with my rake and make it all even. I go out there and make the ground every morning for her. Then I saw that they were closing soon and ran out of the building, still in cotton pajama shorts, creased from rucking up my thighs over days, a cream tank top, bare feet. I think I smell awful, but the skin under my eyes was soft. I'd been sleeping so much, I was too afraid to cycle down the hill with its sharp bend, so I flung the bike into a hedge and threw myself into the road. A red car pulled up, gruff buyers out the window, and I jump in the old man's car. Fiddling with the seatbelt, I tell him I'm expected. I can't feel myself on the cream leather, but feel the sweat collate under my knees against the aircon breeze. We pass the beer garden, the chapel, the gondola and the pharmacy. Then he'd button the chapel, the gondola and the pharmacy. Then he'd city down, even and flat, then go out again in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly. Was so excellent. Thank you. So yeah, moving on with more poetry to Anthony Bradley.
I'm reading After Edward Hopper. After Edward Hopper. Driving in September, and the night steals us. Light possesses us. The pizza boy is illuminated in sharp relief. A neat square cut into darkness incandescent, where they work their dough, squeezing and moulding, then leaned back and easy talking, their movements thoughtless, their conversations silent, framed in glass.
Cool. Thank you so much, Anthony. I love that poem, and I love Edward Hopper. Very big kind of isolation-y mood. So yeah, moving on to Rourke with his poem, Amber, I believe.
Hello. Yes, so this is called Amber, and I'm going to read it now. Awake suddenly outside a half-hearted storm. Two men at the lights share a cigarette and come to terms with the end of Halloween night. It's freezing at the window, and you've managed somehow to acquire an unreasonable percentage of the blanket in your sleep. I wake you while trying to level the playing field, and you ask if there's been any spiders round tonight. Before I can conjure some half-truth, your eyes close back over. Tears now up at the lights. I wonder, are they lovers, these men? The angling of their torsos would suggest as much. I think, yes, I think it's a finale of sorts that's unfolding here, or at least the beginning of an intermission. Shh, shh. Enough of that now. Time to return to the deep, to make another play for the blanket's consolation. There'll be plenty of room for life in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rourke, with an excellent, excellent poem. Thank you so much. And yeah, so moving on now for 2 poems from our first featured artist, Alice Kinsella. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sophie. I'm going to read part 1 and part 3 from the sequence that I have in Icarus. The sequence is called Pilgrimage, and this is the first part called Howarth. The first visit hit with the wallop of words. I was in some kind of heart's home. Now, despite synchrony, stars won't align. I buy a brochure from the blue corner shop, pushing Bronte merch, English pubs, and the ascent. That climb to Emily's quarry of emotional excess, where she could carve so delicately her indelible structure. Now bless me, I am having what you might call a crisis of faith, but what prayers exist for the faithless? I find a signed first edition of Station Island, £5, not repriced since Heaney's death. It must be a sign, laughs the bookseller with phantasmal Yorkshire wit. I think, maybe an omen for this Irish girl, neglecting heritage before drowning in it. And this is part 3 of the same sequence called Ascent. The house grows in the final few steps to the peak of the earth. I follow the crushed, the black stone of the house, all insistent angles. I walk over centuries of decomposition, the first time. Time lapse. The air quivers. Dusk has cloaked everything in this huge space, where the curve of the earth is almost tangible. Horizons fall into place. The clouds rest on each other, lay on the slope of moor. Valley spurs interlock fingers. The black stone of the house, all insistent angles. I walk over centuries of decomposition. The first time, it filled me like a haunting. This piece is outrageous. Something must fill it. The chuckles of grouse, the odd hysterical pheasant. Somewhere impossibly far, stones fall, jolting the air. The rushes bend and quiver. Waves roll over them. The wind, my breath, my heartbeat. I read Sylvia Plath's Wuthering Heights on my phone. No, she climbed this path too. What am I trying to reach? There's a suggestion of garden, lawn shorn by sheep teeth. Stones pop their heads from the grass to say wall. 2 sycamore trees, black spotted leaves, crumpled like bat wings, fret on branch ends. The crunch of the first falls this year. Against the roots of one tree, a yellow rose, wrapped in plastic, that may outlast the standing of these stones. This is where people bring their grief. A crow looks on. I am open. The wind comes to hollow my bones. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alice. It really is so special to have you in this edition, but also really, like, specifically those poems and how I think genuinely, like relatable, and like how much they speak to being a very young poet and being particularly a very young female. For the rest
Thanks,
of us
Sophie.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So yeah, moving on to Connor Dunn with his poem.
So this poem is called Jora J, and it's inspired by the Irish name for the fuchsia plant, which translates as Tears of God. Jora J. The estate's hilltop houses frame a flamingo's wing, smouldering with purple embers. Our little bones vibrate as we stomp out games among dark waxed leaves, his tears chiming in their royal sheath, fragments of heaven's vista caught on Crawford's butch, mouths splayed open, ready to suck the chilled pavement.
Thank you so much, Connor. I really do. I love the last line of that poem so much, and the rest of it, of course, as I said in the email, I think. But thank you so much. And so moving on to Matthew with one poem.
Hey everyone, so I'm going to read my poem. It's called Bullying Poem number 18. Guy number 1 to guy number 2. Look at this piece of shit. I hate you, man. I hope you fucking die. Guy number 2 to guy number 1. Hey buddy, why don't you pick on someone your own size? Why don't you pick on someone your own exact size, with your exact weight and dimensions, who also has very similar features to yours and looks entirely like you? Guy number 2 is a mirror.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you so much for submitting that. It's so funny and oddly, weirdly touching in that odd way. So yeah, moving now on to Zoe, again with a poem.
Thanks. It's wonderful to be here. My poem is called Space Fish. I like to imagine scientists and waiters combing the rice paddies for astronauts, scooping translucent bodies, carrying them hundreds of miles up. The International Space Station weighs hundreds of thousands of pounds, but it weighs nothing at all. A place that exists in a perpetual state of freefall, shared between countries that traded bomb threats like baseball cards, and it has a fish tank. A wave of fluttering inch-long bodies fills the Japanese facility. Kibo, or Hope, plunges into orbit, raising a new generation on 16 sunsets a day. I like to imagine these pioneers as I wade into the sea, so I send joyful tidings to those suspended in the sky, the space fish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zoe. I really do love the spaceship, the space fish, the poem, and kind of, concept. Yeah, so moving on to Elliot with, if they're here, they are, with the full kind of short story extract. They're perhaps not here, so I'm gonna pop them at the end and move swiftly on, I think, then to Alex with a poem.
Yeah, thank you so much. This one is just a small, self-indulgent little poem that's about having surgery, among other things, and it's called Overture for the Birth of Adenomas in My Small Intestine. Blind old molecule, wake up on the floor of my room. I'm sweating into the carpet and my jaw's stuck. A new warm substance across my skin, an oil. Water will not embrace it. Biodegrader, barium sulfate, rock salt, white wine. Potion pulls the color out from me, renders the flesh into foil. A slippery, translucent plastic, a ligation, clear enough to gauze through, to see the contents of my bowels, to see what needs to be done to me, to divine the next steps. Autosurgeon, the world swells, bruise-like, grits of metal sand rolling under my skin, embroiders the belly. They're breaking bread together. Black meat is being cooked nearby, fragrant, and I'm itching. Prince Conscience, watch my hands work. Watch them do their part. My hands are workers' hands, washers' hands. They're washing out the alembic. Let us be sprayed clean by peace. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alex. And I hate to like plug, getting the copy of the issue, but that is it's such a gorgeous poem, and it's such a great one to look at as well. It has such a quite pleasing shape. So pick up Icarus and get that, I guess. And yeah, now on moving on to Fionn with a poem.
Hi everyone. I'm down to read one poem, but the two poems are kind of one poem, just separated by a title. So I'm just going to read them both. They're quite short. The desire to make sense of things is interventionist. Eyelashes blurred to split rainbows. Window split, sunbeam warming retina and my blurred nose. I have acquired the ability to offer infinite arrays of possible explanations for a given X of choice. Perhaps this light, this nowness, this writing down. It feels like the poem is getting in the way of itself. And the nth poem won't be written. Not this one, not even one. Life is real, or am I begging the question for answers? The desire to make sense of things is interventionist. I try telling myself I'm just here writing. Later that morning, filled with the impulse I can write better poems than I've written before, I tell my wife at breakfast I'm eating another's ovaries. She accuses me of anthropomorphizing the apple. This is what happens to you when low-grade Occidental ontology manifests into emotional whim. You can't even act in the world. I put down my spoon to admit, and anyway, I know you don't believe in marriage. You're the one who's dreaming yourself up. God, I was just trying to have conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fionn, for those great poems, or great poem, depending on your views on form, I guess. So yeah, moving on to Catherine, sorry, who's going to read a little bit of the story that they have in Icarus.
Thanks so much, Sophie. So I'm going to be reading the start of my short story, Little Mercy. Above the realm of the known, beings of power allot punishment to the dearly departed. On occasion, in the presence of mitigating circumstances, little mercies are allowed. Far below, further down than depth allows, a woman crouches on her knees in a forest without moonlight, digging. Clods of dirt, wriggling with bugs and worms, land on the hem of her ruined dress. She is barefoot, her shoes abandoned in a river long ago. Her nail polish chips as her nails crack, splitting painfully down to the beds. Still, she digs. The grave is not deep. His hand appears first, as she knew it would. She grasps it, its fingers curling in response. Her other arm roots around into the cold, loose earth until it finds his elbow. She pulls, and the body lurches into a sitting position, soil falling from it in a rush. Still kneeling, she reaches forwards until she can touch his face. She brushes his eyelashes, faintly as a whisper on the wind, and his eyes blink open. And I guess you'll have to pick up the issue to read the rest.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And thank you for the plug. I would very much recommend doing that for many reasons, but a big one is reading that full story, which is so beautiful. And now, once again, returning to our second featured writer, Eva Griffin, who is going to read two poems that she has in the magazine.
Thanks, Sophie. Thanks for asking me to write some new poems. And sorry that I sent you poems I wrote after watching Donnie Darko, as if I'm a teenager and not 26 years old. So this first one is called Doe-Eyed. Watched at a late night screening of My Second Chance, as I was finally cool enough to enjoy being on the phone. There, see as I spill out niceties like a warm glass of milk. Hello, how are you? Nice weather we're having. Bye-bye now. It is useless to turn down feeling a certain way, so I'll tell you. I want to be head over heels in a rom-com. I want to be a baby gurgle time TV. I want to be a doe-eyed collapsing timeline. On Saturday, I spent 10 hours with some junk food feeling all mythical. I am the hottest, smartest, saddest thing to come out of my hometown. I told my therapist that I've been lusting for some fire in the sky. You know, the burst of setting something mansion ridiculous alight. There's a message hidden in the glimmer dark of my bathroom tiles. It says that everything is happening all at once. My beautiful indie rock tears on video, my heart pulsing a summer swarm of bees, my hand holding on to sweaty, extravagant sleep, my car crash lover asking me if I'm hallucinating, my fantasies pouring out of his right eye, his long ear, his breath. Man, I love this film, the one where I see death in a dream and wake up in a bed full of ash. And the second one is slightly longer and not as explicitly Donnie Darko, so don't worry. The blue coming out of the blue. I always try a smile the same way I wear a dress to McDonald's, the same way I keep a routine of content, a mending of relationships, a box of medication. Currently, pondering making art so that you will like me. I accomplish the opening of curtains, the talking about feelings, the getting through days. I balance a video of plants taking in sunlight over a tipping trash can under the slivered moon. I crack immediately, but only slightly, like a small wave, like a summer breeze. Me, falling into a fiction of good dressing, of floss teeth. Me, cool in my existence, in my being up to something, in my having nothing to say. I wake up battling a research paper like a coping mechanism. I wake up under a downy blanket in an umbilical room. Everything is excessive, like sleep, like language. Sometimes I hear you on the other end, going to bed, so I turn the volume up, to so pretty, to my horrible loneliness. The heart aches in the same spiral. The head edits like a new year. Currently, experiencing a self-imposed underrating like a mild chorus. I wanted to say that it's been longer than usual. Like a lot of people, I wanted to say that I feel overwhelmed. Instead, my life is easier now, like a raging recurrent, like the blue coming out of the blue. Me leaving my home. Me getting over God. I've been too busy and now I find myself without tears. I've been at the kitchen table, been silvery like minnow, been counting on getting caught. I don't care about anything but God, I am glittering for you. I want the keep me really close, the every single day of life. I should wash my hair. I should watch some videos. I don't regret running in circles. I was too deep to look into it. I'm ignoring everything. I am my mother cheering myself up. I am thanking myself like I thanked you, mouth open, not sick of me yet. I want it. The coping, the fluency, the everything is fine. Something that feels so good is being beautiful. Like one of those plastic pastries behind the glass, like one of those fake cakes all icing on cardboard in the window staring at the sun. Your globular face shines morning for the quiet shopfront, marvels at the impression of delicious, laughs at the impossibility of the next best thing. Your laugh sounds like some answers to some questions, like some always love you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Eva. Thank you so much for sending me poems about Donnie Darko, because now I've seen Donnie Darko and it's very good. And those poems are so excellent and we really are so grateful to have them in the issue. So thank you so much. I'm going to move on to our second last reading, which is from Pennell Norman.
Hello. Thanks, and everyone's piece has been so fantastic. It's great to listen. Just wanted to have a little hope that even in the crazy times, something will survive, even if it's what comes after us. So, a Tuesday afternoon. In the end, there will still be row housing, standing there made of a brick from time too quaint to relate to. In the end, there will still be leaves scheming on the sidewalk, waiting to make someone trip, tumble, fall. In the end, there will still be Lewis cars, parked somewhere quiet, still too cramped, still not safe. In the end, there will still be pigeons, rats with wings using our tunes as footstools. In the end, the sun will rise and fall and seem to paint the clouds every color. In the end, the tides will turn, dragging our mess out to sea. In the end, the statues will lumpen if they haven't been torn down already. In the end, the roads will fracture, leaving confused mosaics. In the end, no flags will remain up on our special poles. In the end, all of our nations will reduce to life and death. In the end, our old canals will become our only lifelines. In the end, our green spaces will transform to holy ground. In the end, the earth, unshaken, will continue turning daily. In the end, there'll be nothing worth observing but that turning. In the end, there will be no more oceans. In the end, the word ocean can never be said. In the end, all of the real will bleed out from the shadows. In the end, nothing separates pebble from rock. In the end, nothing can stop creation from building. In the end, all of our endings will seem like new dawns. In the end, there is still one principle standing, that in the end, infant silence is the only sound. So thanks.
Thank you so much. I love that poem so much, but more importantly, it is my dad's favorite poem in the issue. So I think he really won there. And I'm really sorry, I skipped Koch in the running order. So this is the real second last reading. So go ahead.
Thank you. It's an honor to be chosen, by the way. So I'm going to read an extract from my short story, The Quadrangle Blues, which is about a university lecture in the 1960s. And this is my favorite extract, it so happens. Classes resumed in the leftover heat of August. Introductions would be simple, and Julian knew what he was about now. In earlier years, he fretted himself, thinking innumerable things: tone, strictness, patience, friendliness. Do they trust me? Do they like me? Eventually, such questions left his mind, and his thoughts concentrated not on what the students viewed him as, but on what he himself viewed himself as. Perhaps a simple thing to imagine. However, Julian had plunged before into solipsism, rudely awakened at times by the knock of a challenging or precocious student. Knocked down senseless he was by the back-talk of a student who challenged him on his tormented reflections on the wrongs of British settlers in Ireland, turning him rouge in the face as though she had killed him, exacting like a scythe. In bed, he turned the light back on and read over his notes to see if he had made an error, or sat up, cross-armed and pained by the thoughts of a banality he couldn't see in himself, but that others could needle at if they tried. These deep blue nights, when the day's heat seemed to saturate into the wet leaves of the ancient elms and form a sweet, flowery cloud, were quiet, only for the notes of a poetic laughter, hyperbole, and soft, living jazz escaping from the student houses in vivid cacophony. On a day in September, not particularly eventful in the college calendar, as much of the freshmen's parties had subsided the week before, Julian, holding thick books in his hands, felt the cold shade of the cloisters somewhat welcoming. Wicked hot it is today, the gardener with the shears, whom Julian had known for some time, exclaimed, holding his arched elbow above his head, wiping sweat onto his glove. Pity we can't study outside more, Julian replied, passing the lilac and blush hydrangeas underneath the archway. Oughtn't you take the students out for class? Couldn't imagine myself in those rooms all day. Wicked hot. Julian had no proper answer, thinking of the possibility of such an excursion. It would be frowned upon and perhaps banned in the college constitution. Awful pollen in the air these days. I'd rather swelter than catch cold. The gardener looked back at him, blinking his eyes in the court, and Julian thought then of his answer and felt terrible. If he were a gardener, he would have to bear the pollen, swelter under heat, weed the paths, and tend to the provost bushes. The gardener chuffed and laughed and continued his business, slicing the dead heads of the hydrangea. Julian climbed the echoing stairwell, so cold and dark, until he heard the warm murmurs of students. Let me get my keys, Julian muttered, fiddling in his trouser pocket. Above his head, the words, Dr. Julian Clark, hidden with a subtle embarrassment. Julian set the books down on his desk and shoved the small, square window upwards. Gazing out briefly, he spied the gardener smoking silently by his wheelbarrow. Wicked hot, Julian muttered under his breath, fixing his tie and unbuttoning his blazer before sitting down. Welcome. I'm Julian Clark, though you may call me Julian, depending on the tone of your voice. Never Jules. Contained chuckle emerged from four now sitting before him. Julian sat backwards in his chair and folded his arms behind his head. In this class, you'll broaden your understanding of what power means and the ways in which institutions use and have used various methods of control, known and unknown to the individual.
Thank you so much, Godrich, for that. That was also, as you know, my favorite extract. I'm so glad that we have it in the journal. Thank you so much. So finally, moving on to our last reader is Ferdia.
Hiya. This is a piece called If All the Young Men Were Hares on the Mountain, inspired by a folk song of the same name. It's pitch black in Cork and I'm being hand-led home. I'd get lost in weather like this. The carnival is still going, it's all lit up and following us through the trees. It might even follow us up into the house. Between the moon and this Ferris wheel, we've some cohort of admirers. We've some excuses to make. We should be long back by now. Or we'll get them some chips and they'll relax soon enough. I'm sceptical. They'll settle after a while. You'll see now once we get them a battered sausage each, there won't be half the fuss you're expecting. That's all well and good, but he's not taking the Ferris wheel into account. The garden is very small, and that thing is dead set on coming home with us. If all the young men were hares on the mountain. Lo and behold, not an issue is raised. In fact, it's not long before we're all gone to our beds. Not a word is mentioned about the large rotating mechanism keeping vigil out front. I wonder, is it almost morning? That's either breakfast happening down there or somebody can't sleep. I wonder, will I join them? Not at all, and absolutely exhausted. If all the young men were hares on the mountain. It'd make you sick to your stomach the way they spin things. Yeah, let's stop. Have they no shame at all? In fairness now, it just looked like a laugh to me. Did they never have fun when they were small? I suppose there wasn't time enough in the day between the machines and the milk. Wasn't it a great thing for your man who discovered colour? Look at the lot of them hopping around the feckin' place. Your man there is off his head. Well, I think he's only having some fun, but I do get their point. He is very loud and he looks a bit like Justin. If all the young men were hares on the mountain. I can't stand the sight of porridge and it tastes like texture. Would ducks not prefer it if their bread was fresh? Can priests have wives and why would they want them? If all the young men were hares on the mountain, how many young girls would take guns and go hunting?
Thank you so much, Ferdia. Again, I love that so much. Of course, as I love everything here, or else, you know. I once again completely fucked up and forgot that we now have Elliot with a restored internet connection to actually close us off for tonight. So
thanks, Sophie. Yeah, sorry for being late. Sorry in general. Yeah, this story is called A Love Letter, Box, Flowers. It had been Dougal's job to transcribe Wagner's deepest of outpourings to his one true love, Gillian Peters. Sir, Dougal meekly spoke. Yes? I think there's been a problem. A what? A mishap, sir. A problem? Yes, sir, a problem. Has been? A problem. Yes, sir, there's been one. Dougal was nervous. He tested the ground, defending himself partially before admitting his wrong. Dougal had copied down Wagner's words all right. He'd done so word perfectly. About your love letter, sir, well, I copied it down word for word, sir. Nothing went wrong with the wording. Good, Dougal. But then, this was important, Dougal. Yes, sir, this is important, Dougal. Don't make me worried. Dougal was worried. I'm worried, Dougal. What is it, Dougal? Wagner rustled. Sir, there was a problem with your love letter. My love message? Yes, your love message. In a sense. They were striding through long grass on their weekly scrumping trip, wearing short Aussie rules-style shorts, ill-chosen for the sharpness of the meadow's blade. Midges buzzed at their ankles. A basket each of overripe apples weighed them down. This was meant to be a happy, romantic yomp. It was turning out for the worst. You said you got it right, Dougal. You swore you got it word for word. I did, sire. This is a very important thing, Dougal. You said you got my love message word perfect. You promised you did. Wagner creaked. Wagner moaned slowly, painfully. What have you done, Douglas? What has gone wrong with my lovely letter to love-bright Gillian? Dougal had, upon accident, emailed his master's precious outpourings, not to Gillian Peters, but to Gillette Promotions. There was an uncomfortable pause. Dougal looked exactly like Rudyard Kipling. He suspected that Wagner was annoyed at him for messing up with the email thing. Dougal had asked Wagner if he would like the love email to be sent to Gillian correctly. Wagner had said it had been sullied. Sullied, sire? The whole thing tarnished, Douglas. Sullied, yes, Wagner snapped. But sir, but nothing, it won't be the same now. Sir? Neither of them knew very well how emails worked. Wagner and Dougal needed each other. Dougal considered raising the topic of his resemblance to Rudyard Kipling so as to focus his master's mind onto something else. Sir, do you... He faltered. Now wasn't the time. The Kipling gambit worked only maximum twice a day. Why I? You could do with a shave, sir, Dougal ventured, affecting a Geordie accent. If I had a big sharp sword, I would have half a mind to garrote you. Do you know that? I do now, Dougal thought. What does garrote mean, Captain? Whispered Dougal. A cow nearby dumped, with thoroughness, with generosity. I don't know, Dougie. I think it's something to do with capital punishment, which, as you know, you are against, sir. I am against. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Elliot. I'm glad that we got you in the end, and don't worry about it at all. And thank you so much for that hilarious and very nice story. And yeah, once again, thank you to both of our feature writers, Eva and Alice, as special as it was when I said it 10 minutes ago to have your work in this issue. And thank you to everybody for not only submitting, but also agreeing to have it published and submitting during a pandemic and everything and coming. It was really, really great to be able to hear poetry and fiction in a time when I haven't heard poetry or fiction in quite a while. So yeah, real honor to do this issue. And I actually, in the end, didn't figure out a secret signal to tell Aoife to stop recording. So that'll be about now.